Good afternoon, students. This class is scheduled to discuss regarding functions. So, in the previous classes, as well as in the videos shared, we have discussed a lot about functions, right? The basic fundamentals. So, here, if we have to perform a specific task repeatedly, say with different inputs, so we can use the concept of functions. We have seen that basically there are two types: predefined functions and user defined functions. So to recap, so predefined is which is already defined by the compiler. So it is also called as inbuilt function or system defined function or library function, right? So there are header files in which we have defined these functions. So the name of these predefined functions are all keywords like printf, scanf, string length, or get s, put s. All these are built-in functions. And the second type is user defined function. That is mainly what this module is all about. So user defined functions are what we define. So we can say what is the code to be written in that function. So we are free to write any code, whichever task we want to perform, we can write a function. So if we want to find a factorial, maybe there is no built-in function available. If we know that, so then we can write a function and then call it, and then it works, right? So we have seen some terminologies also. So now we have like some function which will call it. Say we are usually seen the examples with main function calling other functions. So that is not always mandatory. We can have separate functions. Say function 1 is calling function 2. So in that case, function 1 becomes calling function. Function 2 is called function, right? So this called function is the one we are defining. It is the user defined function. Now it will work only if there is a function call. So that is another important term and important concept. Function call, if it is not there in the program, so if even if we define or whatever we write in the function is of no use. Only if the function is called, it will execute. Otherwise, it is simply there. We may write a 100 function. If we are calling only 10 of them, only 10 are used. The others are simply taking space in the program. That's it. Okay, so that is how important the line is, function call is. So without a function call, the function will not execute. The next thing we saw is regarding the two types of parameters. So we discussed that there are two types of parameters. Can you name them? Anyone? What are the two types of parameters? Guru Kiran? Okay. Is there? Guru Kiran is there? Yeah. So Imtiaz says actual and formal parameters. So you're sent in the chat box. Yes, that's right. So the two types of parameters are actual parameters and formal parameters. Correct. So what is actual parameter? So if we have function 1 calling function 2, so whatever variables we use in the function call, that statement, so whatever variable, it may be say AB is used, then AB becomes the actual parameter. And the parameters we will use in the user defined function, like while declaring, so that becomes formal parameter. So if we are defining add, yes, yeah. So here if we are having add of x comma y, right, in the function declaration, so we have given x comma y, so that is the user defined function add. So x and y will be called as formal parameters. And then we also discussed regarding the categories of functions based on the parameters, or we can call parameters as arguments also. Parameter or argument, both are same. So based on the arguments as well as return type, we have four types, right? So I will just display the same here. I hope the screen is visible. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So here we have the screen. So the functions are also called as modules, or we can call them as subroutines or procedures. So all these terms mean the same: functions, modules, subroutines, procedure. So all of them are the same. So that means it is used to perform a specific task. So we can give some application. Say if we write, for example, a calculator, we can have one function to add, another function to subtract, another function to multiply, another function to divide, a fifth function for finding modulus. So we have all the 5 arithmetic functions. Now we can call them one by one in the main function, right? So that becomes the program for calculator. So depending on our application, we can create any number. So each one is a module or it is a part of the program. So that is why functions are nothing but modular programming. So we also discussed with one example of add function that 4 types, right? What are they? There are 4 different categories in modular programming or in functions. So the first one is without parameter and without return type, right? There is no parameter, there is no return type. So we saw that there is simply one line called sum and bracket. Nothing is there inside the bracket. That means there is no parameter. Nothing like result equal to sum we did not write, so result equal to is not there. That means there is no return type. The function is not returning any answer. So it may print in the function itself, like we printed total. Okay, so second type is without parameter but with return type. There is no parameter passed. That means this parameter has to be taken inside the function. If it wants to calculate, say, adding a and b is not passed as parameter. So in the function add or say sum, we can take input for a and b and then add it and store result in total, for example. So variable name, if we have taken total, we have to return that back. So that means there is a return type. If we are adding 2 integers, answer or result is also an integer. So here return type will be an integer. So we are giving the return type in the second category. The third one is with parameter but without return type, right? So with parameter means we have to pass the parameter. We have to take input in the main. So if we are calling in the main, right? So take input in the main and then pass that parameter. So this parameter which is passed becomes the actual parameter. But the function will not return back any answer, right? So in this case, I took one analogy in the beginning of the class. So like how can we understand this category? So if we say a scenario, right? So I am the teacher, I call one of the student, say I call Jai Surya. Okay, so and I tell him you solve this assignment and give me the answer, right? So how does this work? So here without parameter, without return type, he will take his own inputs and find the answer. Say solving addition, he will find the answer, but he has solved the problem. He does not come and tell me the answer. Okay, just an example I am taking, Jai Surya, don't mind. Okay, so here so he has solved the problem, he has worked it, but he has not come and told me the answer. That is the first category. There is no return type. So he has solved it but answer is not sent back, right? So second one is without parameter with return type. He has solved it and he comes and tell me, yes ma'am, I have solved and this is the answer. I hope you are able to analyze this analogy, right? So here we have got back one answer in the calling function. So I called the student and I will be the calling function. Whomever I called Jai Surya, you solve this assignment. So Jai Surya becomes the called function. Okay, so he has returned me the answer. He solved, added a and b and told me, okay ma'am, I added 4 plus 6, answer is 10. He has returned an answer. So that becomes the second type, with return type. So now what is this third type, with parameter and without return type? So I give him the 2 terms to be added. Previously I did not tell what are the 2 values, so he has taken his own numbers. Now I tell Jai Surya, you add 3 plus 4 and tell me. Okay, so then he has added, but return answer I did not get. So he has added 3 and 4, he knows the answer is 7, but there is no return back to the calling function. Okay, so the calling function does not get back the answer. The fourth type is with parameter with return type. So parameters are also given. Say add 3 and 4 is given. Function will add it. Okay, 3 plus 4 is 7. And function gives back the answer to main. Okay, with return type means answer is given back to main. So like he says, okay, ma'am, I have added this. 3 plus 4 is 7. Yes, I have solved and answer is 7. So there is a return type. Is this clear? The four types? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I get the answer first from Jai Surya only. Okay, fine. Yeah, just an example. Okay, so we have seen this with respect to addition of two integers, right? So let us see the same in your lab sheet. If you have gone through lab sheet 4, the same 4 categories are there, but it is with respect to factorial, right? There is no inbuilt function called factorial, so we are going to create one. Okay, so this is the lab sheet problem. So let us see each of this with factorial of a number. So if you have seen in the previous lab sheets, we have discussed the factorial of a number, like the problem. Radha wants to arrange 5 books and she wants to know how many ways to arrange, right? We have seen that. In the main function itself, we used the logic, right? We found the factorial of a number. So say 5 books, so 5 factorial is 120. So Radha can arrange all the 5 books in 120 ways. So that was to find a factorial of a number. So how did we do that? The entire code we wrote within main only. Now, what we can do here is with the function, the logic, main logic of finding factorial of a number is written within a user defined function. We can name it anyway, right? Say we name it as fact. Let us see the same categories one by one. Problem 1 in your lab sheet is about finding NCR. So NCR requires n factorial by n minus r factorial into r factorial. So there are factorials to be found. So I thought before we go to NCR, we will find out factorial using function, and the same thing we will be using in problem 1. Okay. So first we will discuss problem 2. Okay. And then we'll come back to 1. Right? So problem 2 in lab sheet 4 is with the category, first category, which is without parameter and without return type. So in this case, we have the logic, like we want to find 5 factorial. So we know 5 factorial means 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, that is 120. Right? If how do we trace? We have traced this also previously. So we are going to multiply one by one. So here we may start with 5 into 4, then answer into 3, then into 2 and into 1. We may start from the larger value or we may start from smaller value, right? 1 into 2. Then whatever answer we get, 2, we get that multiply into 3 and answer multiply into 4, answer multiply into 5. So this is the logic we are following here. Anyway can be multiplied because the answer finally we will get 120 only. So we can start from 5 or we can start from 1. So here we are starting from 1, initializing the variable resultant to 1. Why? When we are multiplying, basic operation is multiplication. So 1 is called as multiplicative
Multiplicative identity.
identity. Very good. So 1 is the multiplicative identity and therefore the resultant variable is initialized to 1. You take res or fact. Okay, here we have taken res as the variable, initializing it to 1. So we will start from right hand side. We will multiply 1 and then say we take, because we are incrementing 1 by 1, we can take another variable, say I, and then keep incrementing. I becomes 2, 3, 4. How does it go? So we have seen, so 1 into 2. So we will multiply that, we will get 2. This 2 is now stored into result. Next, we have to multiply this answer with 3, right? So we have got 2 as answer, multiply with 3. So 1 into 2 into 3, we will get 6. That is stored to result. Next, answer we got as 6, we will multiply with 4, right? So 6 into 4, we will get 24. Now we got 1 into 2 into 3 into 4, right? That is 24. We will multiply that with 5, right? So we get the result 120. So this is nothing but 5 factorial. Now where do we stop? When I becomes 5. So that is what is the value of n. For example, if we take n is the variable n factorial, we will stop I value at 5. So when I becomes 6, we need not continue to multiply. So this is the basic tracing. Now we will use the same logic to perform factorial, right? We will use functions. Previously, we have written the entire program only in main. Now we will divide it into parts. So main logic of factorial, we will write in a user defined function called factorial. And in the main, we will call that function. Okay. So let us see. Here we have the main. As you can see this statement, the most important statement when using function is the function call. If we forget function call, it is like just simply writing the function and not using it, right? So here function call is very much necessary if the function has to execute. So only when it is called, it will execute. So this we have fact. Here if we see within bracket, there is no variable. That means it is without parameter. And it is not going to be stored somewhere. We have not written like a equal to fact, right? That means it has to return some value. Since only the name is called, there is no return type. So this is the first category, without parameter and without return type. Now immediately control has started from main always. So from here, when it sees the function call, it will immediately go to the function definition, right? So hash include we have given, and then you can note this. This is the function prototype. So you can connect this to the function call when you see. So now no parameters here as well. And because there is no return type, we are not returning back any answer to main. Okay. So nothing is returned. So here return type will be void. Now inside the fact function, we will write the logic to find the factorial. So here we have to take input for which number should we find factorial, because nothing is told by main. It has to know which number, right? So I did not tell which number to add. So Jayasuriya took 2 numbers and added, right? Again, I took the same exam. So here we don't know which number to find factorial, because from the main we did not get that information. We will take input in the function itself, right? So here n is taken as input. For example, we enter 5. Now we have to start with this tracing similar logic. So result will be initialized to 1. So starting from 1, I starts from 1. We are multiplying every time. So then I becomes 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. So until n, so that is 5, we keep on multiplying result equal to result into I. So initially result is 1, 1 into 1, we will get result equal to 1. Okay, then I becomes 2, 2 less than equal to 5. So result will be 1 into 2, that is 2. Then next I becomes 3. So that will be 2 into 3, result becomes 6. When I becomes 4, result will be 6 into 4. So result now becomes 24. When I becomes 5, 5 is still less than equal to 5. So because it is equal, condition true, result will be 24 into 5, which is 120. Now I was 5, it gets incremented further. I become 6. 6 less than equal to 5, condition is false. For loop will stop. Okay. Is this logic for factorial clear first of all? Is this logic clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Same logic we will use for all the programs. So this has to be very clear first thing. So only when you know how it works, then we can understand the different types, right? This is the main logic for finding the factorial. Okay. So here we have found the factorial and its value is there in the variable res. Now if we see this type, it should not return any answer. But can we just stop here? So then no use of writing the program, right? The user wants to know the answer, but the developer does not want to print it in main. Okay. So here, because we cannot return back the answer, we can print it here itself, right? Print it in the user defined function, because we cannot return back result in this category. So if we want to use without return type, but answer has to be known, it has to be displayed on the console. So now we will give one printf statement in the function itself. right? And along with that, we should also declare the required variables which we have used. Always follow this type of programming. Write whatever code you want, and then later you can declare all the variables. So we used n here, and then result and I, so that if we miss anything, we can know it. Okay, so declaration statement has to be written, but you can write it later also. So first thing is to write the logic. So once we understand how the logic works, then the input and output statement can follow. Okay, so this is the basic logic. Now what happens? It has found the result, okay, factorial of 5. So it will simply print factorial of this first percentage d is nothing but n. So factorial of 5 is 120. So it will print that factorial. Okay, and once it prints, there is nothing else in the function. Control will come back to this function call itself. Note, this is important. From this statement, it went to the declaration prototype statement and executed all of this, and then control will return back to the same function call statement. This is one more important thing. So function call is the most important thing. Okay, now from the function call, from here, control went to the function, executed all the lines, and when the function completes, it will come back to the same line and then continue. Okay, so if it had to return something, it will return, or else it will go to the next statement. Here anyway we are not returning anything, so we can go to the next statement. In this problem there is no other statement. Is this first category clear? Did you understand this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, so we will continue. Now note that this is like you can have as a template. So here we are going to change only very few things in each category. So the problem will remain the same. Okay, finding factorial of a number using functions, but we will use all the 4 categories. So first category is without parameter and without return type. Next we will include one by one, right? We will include return type. Next we'll include parameter and so on. So problem 2 is without parameter and without return type. Okay, execution you can do. If you want, in that video I have executed also. So it will ask enter the number, you enter 5, it will display factorial of 5 is 120. So you can watch that video as well. Then we have problem 3, which is the second category in the lab sheet, right? So here, so let us see what happens in this case. So without parameter, but with return type. So here we have to pass a parameter. So if we want to pass some parameter, we have to have the value of that, right? What parameter should we pass? Or here without parameter, I'm sorry, without parameter and with return type. So in this case, with parameter is next, okay? Without parameter and with return type. So we have to get the answer. We are getting an answer from the function. If we are getting an answer, we have to store it somewhere. So we need to store it into a variable. So we'll declare one res. Now note the difference. Previously we simply wrote fact. Here note the difference in the function call. This statement is the function call. Okay, important to note. Function call is the most important thing. So here we have a result equal to fact. Within bracket there is nothing. Okay, that means this is without parameter. Okay, so here we have res equal to fact. That means this function is going to return some value which is to be stored in res. So here we know that it is an integer. Okay, so that based on the application we can decide whatever data type we want to give. If this function was to find some area of a circle, so then it would be float. So you can declare here float, and even in the prototype we can give float. Okay, so here it is int. So this returns an integer. Now immediately after this step, the control will go to the prototype. Okay, so here we are having the same function, but the difference is instead of void we have int. Why is that? Because this is going to have a return type. It is going to return an integer. If there is some function like area, then you can give float area. Okay, so that answer is going to be float. Okay, so in that case the return type depends on what is the data type of our answer. So here it is an integer, so we give int fact. And similarly here also we have to declare int. The data type has to match. okay, result, whatever is stored. Otherwise, it gives an error. So here, because we have not passed any parameter, we need to know which parameter we have to find factorial for, right? N value. So we will take input for n, and this logic is the same, right? We just discussed with the tracing. So logic is the same. It will find out factorial. Let's say if we give 5, result value becomes 120. If we give 6, 120 into 6, it becomes 720, right? So there it calculates n factorial and the value is stored in result. Now we know that there is a return type, right, in the second category with return type. That means it has to return an answer to main. So we will give the statement simply return res. So when it sees this, compiler will return this result value. Say it was 5 is the n value, 120 will be returned back from fact, and this fact has returned 120, that 120 will get copied to res. Note that this res is different from this. It will be stored in 2 different memory location. Okay, this may be stored in some 1000, this may be stored in 2000, for example. If you give here res1 also, still it works. Okay, so these parameters may be different. Whatever is used within the function is called as local variable. It can be used only within the function. So here we are going to return 120. It gets stored into res. Now user needs to know the answer, right? We got back the answer in main. We will print it, right? Factorial is equal to 120. Whatever statement we want to give, we can print. Factorial of 5 is 120, or however we want to print, we can print the answer. I hope this is clear to all of you. Okay, execute this program as well. I'm not executing here because of lack of time. Anyway, I have executed with different test cases. You watch the video, you will know. Okay, then same problem we will see with category 3. That is problem number 4 in lab sheet 4. Right, with parameter and without return type. So here we have to pass a parameter. So we should know. Okay, so here we have one doubt in the chat box. So that is, what is the use of programming? Is there no use of programming? So I just told you about the advantages of using functions. So this, if we have just a simple fact, you may not be able to appreciate. There is only one function. So if it is written only in main, it is the same, right? But if you may have certain applications where there are multiple functions, and repeatedly writing that becomes a very tedious procedure. Okay, so in that case, for the developer it is very easy to read if there is a function. Okay, so there may be some functions, and the main advantage of this type is reusability. You need not write everything again and again. Okay, so there is a function. So when you come to further semesters, you will know there is a subject called software engineering, where you have an entire chapter dedicated to reusability. So as a software developer, that is one more thing. If you see in companies, they have some GitHub or some websites wherein the required functions are already available. So that is what we have here. We are going to reuse the available code for our logic. Okay, so we need not reinvent the wheel. That is the saying, right? So we need not write the same function again and again. So we can simply call that function in our program. So it saves a lot of time for the developer also. Okay, so that is an advantage of using this type of programming. I hope I cleared your first doubt. Okay. And then we have another doubt in the chat box which says, okay, I'll go back to the previous slide. Okay, here you have a doubt. So what if we declare int fact globally? See, global is for variable. That concept is for only variable. Okay, so here fact is not a variable. Fact is a function. Okay, it is same as writing globally. It can be used anywhere. Okay, so here if we have function, okay, in main, and then we write another function fact1, it may not be required, but for your doubt I am telling you, in fact1 also we can call fact, right? Okay, so we can call fact. It is not necessary that the function has to be called only in main. We may have n number of functions. In any function we can call any other function. Okay, we can call the itself also. That I will not confuse you now. That is the concept of recursion, where that is will be taught later. So where a function will call itself, but don't worry now. Okay, so that way global is concept for variables, right? Yeah. What about res? Yes, you can declare res globally also, no problem. Then what happens if we are using this and in between we try to print, so then that value which is passed will be only the final value. So there may be cases wherein so it has to complete the execution, right? So if we try to print somewhere in between, so instead of 120 we may get answer as 6 or 24, right? So that depends. If we declare res, we should be careful about when we are printing the value. Okay, so in this case, after calculation we are returning and then printing, so no problem, you can declare result globally. So that is one thing we have to be very careful. So whenever we are using global variables, so we should be careful about when we are printing it. Okay, so like if you take factorial for example, we have to print it only after calculating the entire thing, right? So if we see this slide, so here we just traced it. Okay, so previous slide, we just a minute, I'm going back to category 1. Yeah, here we just traced it. So we should take care that we don't print result somewhere in between. Then it will give answer as 5 factorial is equal to 6, which we know is wrong answer, right? So if we are declaring result globally, we should be careful when we are printing it. Okay, so if we can take care of that, then no problem. Fact, we can declare here also int res. I hope your doubt is clear. Yes, okay. So we'll continue. This is category 1, and we also discussed about category 2, right? So with without parameter and with return type. So here we are not passing any parameter, but we will return an answer, which is a factorial that will be printed in the main function. Okay, so execute each and every. Any other doubts?
స్కాన్ చేసి ఎంత పెట్టాలంటే రైట్రా.
In between also, like you just sent, you can send me your doubts in the chat box also, or you have an option of unmuting yourself and asking your doubt. Okay, so yeah, let's continue. Don't forget to execute each and every program, right? Yeah, continuing here, we have the third category, which is with parameter and without return type. So here we have to pass the parameter, right? So that means we should know the value. We have to pass the parameter for which we have to find the factorial. That means we should know what is this n for which we have to find the factorial. Is it 5 factorial or 6 factorial? What is the value of n? So in this case, if we have to pass it as a parameter, we have to take input first in the main. Okay, so here first we are taking input. Now compare each and every category with one another. The thing is only parts are getting exchanged. Okay, with parameter, without parameter, or with return type, without return type. The program is exactly the same. Logic is the same. Only the category of functions can be seen. We have taken the exact same function, same program, so that you can understand the difference between the 4 categories. Okay, so similarly you can choose whenever we are writing a program with functions, we can choose any one of the category. There is no advantage of time with respect to categories. All the type of category to be used depends on what application we have, right? What program we want to write. So in that case, which is feasible, we can select. So out of the 4 categories, we can see, okay, which is more useful for our program, we can select one of them. Okay, so here so that way, so any one of the category can be selected. So let us see what is the third category. Third one, we have to pass parameter. So if we have to pass, we should know that value. Here we can directly pass fact of 5, or because we want it to be used for any inputs, we will take input as n. So we are passing fact of n. Note that unlike previous pattern, we don't have res equal to fact of n, right? Because it does not return any value. So this category is without return type. So if it is not returning, it will as well print it itself. Let us see what it does. So it may print, or there are applications where it may be used for some other computation also. So here we have called the function call. So function. So this is the important step. I repeat every time. Function call is very important. Without function call, the function will not execute. Okay. So here we have the function call. We have passed a parameter n. Okay. So compiler starts from main always. As soon as it encounters the function call, it will go to the definition of this function fact. So void fact of int n. This is the function prototype or function declaration statement, the first line in the function definition. So now we know that there are three things to be taken care. So that is the order of parameters, actual and formal. Since we have only one parameter, so that one parameter is there here as well as here, order. So it is the same number of parameters. So number of actual parameter is 1 and number of formal parameter also is 1. Here we have taken same name. Name may be same or different. That is okay. Then third condition is the data type. What is the data type of n here? It is int. And in formal parameter also it is int. So order, number of parameters, and the data type of actual and formal parameter should match. So because it is matching, compiler will continue. And here void is there. That means this function is not returning anything, right? There is no return type. So we mention void. So the logic is the same. We have taken res, but since we know the n value, we need not take input here, right? Unlike the other problem. So we know already what is n. So we have passed it in the function. Say we give 5, it has been passed here. Note that from here, from actual parameter, it gets copied to formal parameter. Again, this n is different from this n. It may be stored in different memory locations. Okay, so it is 5. We find 5 factorial and result. Because this is category without return type, we are not giving return result here. Instead, we will print it. Okay, we are printing the result. So factorial of 5 is 120. We print the value within the function itself. So if you observe the outputs of all the categories, it is the same, right? So as a end user or whoever is executing the program only, that person cannot recognize any difference between the categories. So these categories are basically for programmers. So programmer can decide, okay, which category is more suitable for my program, I will select that. Okay, so as far as output is concerned, output will be same for all the 4. If we give n value 5, all the 4 programs gives the same output. Okay, so only statements, if you are given different way, that depends. So if you give the same printf statement, even the print output statement also will be same, right? So here we just gave a different printf, previous second program factorial equal to %d. We did not print n. If you give the same like previous program, instead of giving printf here, we can give factorial of %d is %d n comma result. Then even the statement, enter statement is same. So output is same for all the 4 programs. This is for us as a developer. We want to know what are the types which are available so that we can select and use the best suitable one. Okay, so this will print the factorial, and now this function has completed. Control comes back to the function call and the program completes. Is the third category clear to all of you?
Yes,
Abhishek?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll continue. Are you all able to execute the programs? Are you able to execute the programs?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So again, I repeat, if you get any doubts, take screenshot and send. Okay, so that I can see. Make sure that you send screenshot of both the output screen as well as program, so that if there is some error or some doubt, I can clear it. Okay. So let's continue. We have seen categories, 3 categories till now. Okay, so for the same factorial program, we will see category 4. So that is problem 5 in lab sheet. Okay, so category 4 is with parameter and with return type. So we are passing parameter and we will get back the answer in main. So main is a calling function. Okay. So here we need to pass the parameter. So we need that value n. Then we have a return type. We want to store the answer also. So we'll declare res. Next, we will take input. We have to pass parameter. We need its value. So take input n. If we enter 6, for example, n is 6. So we are going to pass that parameter. Note this function call. Every time you can compare with the previous types and find out how each one is different, right? So here fact res equal to fact of n. We are passing the parameter n. There is a return type. This is with return type. So it will return some answer. If n is 6, it will return factorial of 6, right? 6 factorial, it will return 120. So that 120 will get stored to res. Okay. So that is by executing this fact. So once we have this function call, compiler will move the control directly to the function. So it is as well as being invisible now. Until now, the compiler has seen only this much, right? So that is the reason I give it step by step. So compiler saw stdio.h, there's nothing here. So it just knows there is some function defined. But control always starts from main. So it takes input. Now after calling the function, only then control comes to the function, user defined function fact. Now note that order, number of parameters and the data type. So actual parameter, order is no problem, one variable, same one variable is there. Number of parameters, one each in actual. Here also we have one variable, here also we have one variable, and the data type, this n is int, and here also we specify int. So these three things will be confirmed first by the compiler. So it scans only the prototype first. So after seeing the function call, it will scan only the prototype. Okay, so it has checked order, number of parameters, and the data type of actual and formal parameters are matching. So there is no problem there. Now we have, and it also knows that name of the function also is fact, as well as there is some value which will be returned. Okay, so that is known by the return type. So this function is going to return an integer. So compiler knows this much information as of now. So now continue. We know the value of n. Say we passed as 6, right? So now we have to find 6 factorial. Logic is the same. Okay. So same program we use here, finding 6 factorial. So it multiplies 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5 into 6. So answer is 720. So it will store that in res. Now this is with parameter. It has to return an integer. So that is nothing but res. So here we will return res. So now it has got 720. It returns 720 and that gets stored here to res. Now the user also has to know this answer. No? So then we will print the value. Print factorial of %d is %d. This is n and this is result. N is 6. So factorial of 6 is 720. Okay. Is this clear? Fourth category.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So each one of this program again execute with the different inputs, right? So you can observe the differences in each category, right? So now this is for finding factorial. So let's go to problem 1. As I told you, it is for finding NCR. So for this, we have a problem statement. Problem 1 is for finding NCR. In short, I just told you. So now we have a problem statement. What is that? Mr. Aditya is given the task to write the code to find the NCR. He knows that he has to find factorial of the numbers. To find NCR, he has to find some factorials. Help Mr. Aditya to code to get the required answer. So can you tell me how to find NCR? Anyone? What is the formula, or how do we write, how do we find NCR? Permutation and combination, NPR, NCR, formulas you have learnt in maths.
N factorial by n minus r factorial into r factorial, ma'am.
Yes. So NCR is n factorial by n minus r factorial into r factorial. right? So that is the formula here. So n factorial by n minus r factorial into r factorial will give us NCR. Okay, so here we have one doubt. Can't we write int fact of n instead of, so in the previous problem, right? So in the declaration statement you have asked, no, there you have to mention the data type. Okay, so int fact of int n you have to write, because the compiler will otherwise not know what is the data type of the formal parameter. So we have to give the entire statement in the formal parameters, right? So here, yes, so when we see that program, so here previously we just saw, just a minute, going back. Here we have this statement. In this statement, we have to give all the majority of information. If we write only n, compiler cannot check the data type if it is matching with the actual parameter. Okay, so this int is only for return type. So int return type. Inside this we can write float n also, no problem. Return type may be int, parameter may be float. So that does not make any difference. Okay, but in terms of logic, it may make difference because factorial of a float. So that may be problem. You may have certain applications wherein you are dividing something and getting the integer part in this, and then you may return an integer also. So whatever is the data type, it has to be mentioned. So this is the return type of the function. And for each parameter, if you have two parameters here, a and b, you cannot write int a comma b. So like we declare int res comma I. No, that cannot be written in the parameters. Okay, so it has to be written again. So int a comma int b. We have to specify the data type for each and every formal parameter. I hope your doubt is clear. So if you have n number, say 3 or 4 parameters, for each of them, you have to write the data type. So that is the syntax. Okay, yeah. So we'll continue. Problem 1 is for NCR. Now we know that for this, we have to find n factorial, n minus r factorial, r factorial. So 3 times we have to find factorial. So this is where I think you can appreciate using functions. So this problem 1 is actually without using function, right? I think till now we didn't solve for NCR, right? So this problem is without using functions. So let us see how do we do, and then we can compare to appreciate the usage of function. So you can know, so what is the use of this type of function? So there you can see the differences. So first, problem 1, we have the requirements. So to find NCR, what do we need? We need n, we need r, right? So we need the values of n and r. Those are the inputs. So first requirement, capture the value of n and r. Now we know n and r, we know the formula also. We have to first find n factorial, then in any order, okay, then we can find n minus r factorial, then find r factorial, and then substitute in this formula, we will get the answer for NCR, right? So that first requirement is we got n and r, right? So now we need to find the factorial of n. Next, find factorial of r, okay? Anyway, then find factorial of n minus r. So if you may ask me why not n minus r first, as well you can do that, okay, no problem. It is only as long as we get all the 3 values. So according to the formula, if you want to do this, you can find n minus r factorial first and then r factorial, okay? So basically find all the 3 factorials, substitute in the formula to compute NCR, and once we compute, we have to display that value. I hope the problem statement is clear. So we know the formula for NCR is n factorial by n minus r factorial into r factorial. We will compute each of them, substitute in this formula, and then find the value of NCR. After that, we will display it. So this is the problem statement. So here, so first thing, we will take input, right? So taking input for n and r. So enter value of n and r, both are integers. So format specifier %d. We are taking input for n and r. Next, there are few things to find the NCR value. So n should not be less than r, right? So if we give 3C5, it is not possible to find the value, right? So in that case, we cannot compute NCR value. So we have to check all the cases. So if n is less than r, we will simply give a message cannot compute. Now, what if both are equal, right? So 5C5, so value will be 1. So if, else if n is equal to r, we need not calculate anyway. We know for every value, it is the same, right? 1 itself, 3C3 or 5C5. If you substitute it back in the formula and then check also, you can see that we will get the same answer as 1. So we can simply print it. If n is equal to r, then print the value of NCR is 1. Now the other left out case is if n is greater than r. So in that case, we have to use the formula that is in the else part. So we will see that in the next slide. So now in this, we are declaring, right, some variables. We have one loop. So I is one variable, n and r are the inputs. NCR, this variable is for output. Okay, fact1. Say we want to store factorial of n, factorial of r, factorial of n minus r. We need 3 variables so that we will find and store it in the formula, substitute to the formula. So we are declaring fact1, fact2 and fact3. And as usual, we have the header file and the main function. So let's continue. If we give 5 and 3, so we want to find 5C3, right? Or anything you can give, 8C4. So in that case, n is not less than r, n is not equal to r. Because n is greater than r, control comes to else part. So what do we have in else? We have to find each part. So here we have to find n factorial. Say, let me take the same, which I explained. So 5C3. So we have to find 5 factorial and then 5 minus 2. 5 minus 3. So that is 2 factorial into r is 3 factorial, right? So one by one, we will find each of these 3 values. So first thing we are finding for n factorial, we'll declare. Now because factorial we know is basic multiplication. So we are initializing to 1 and up to n we are finding. So logic is similar to the problem we just discussed. Instead of res, we have fact1. That's all. Okay. So fact1 is equal to fact1 into I. So it keeps multiplying and n is 5. So we will get at the end of this loop, we will get fact1 equal to 120. So that is 5 factorial. Okay, we got the numerator. Next, find one by one. R factorial. So here fact2 is initialized to 1. So I less than equal to R. Not that everywhere till where you work, right? R is 3. So here we are finding 3 factorial. 1 into 2 into 3. So 3 factorial, we get fact2 as 6, right? Next, we have to find n minus R factorial. We are taking fact3 here, initializing to 1. It is a multiplicative identity. Now we are working till n minus r only because we want to find n minus r factorial. Now when you write this expression here, right? So this is a condition. Inside this we have expression. First it will solve this one, right? 5 minus r. R is 3. So 5 minus 3 is 2. So I will be working till 2. So 1 into 2, fact3 we will get as 2. That is n minus r factorial. So we got all the values, substitute them. What is it? Fact1 is nothing but n factorial. Fact2 is r factorial. Fact3 is n minus r factorial. We know if we interchange these two also, it is the same, right? So fact3 into fact2 or fact2 into fact3 is the same. So we just substituted all the 3 values in the formula. We will get NCR. 120 divided by 6 into 2. 6 into 2 is 12. 120 divided by 12 will be 10. So NCR is 10. 5C3 will be 10. We got the answer. We will print it. Okay. NCR value is 10. Right. Then we'll close the bracket. Note that number of open bracket should be equal to number of closing bracket. We have one else. Okay. And then we have one main. You have to take care of this as well. Right? So otherwise it results in syntax error. So here we found the factorial one by one. Now you note one thing. This code is somewhat similar to this as well as this. Only the variable is changing. So here if you observe, we have repeated 3 times and the code is almost 9 lines for this. So if this was to be done 100 times, you assume some applications wherein the same thing has to be done. So then you can appreciate why functions are necessary. All these are performing the same operation. It is redundant, writing the same thing again and again. It is a tedious process for the developer also. It becomes difficult to read. We are anyway performing the same operation. So this can be done using functions. We write it once and simply call it. So it becomes easier. So this way also is correct, and that is also correct. The only thing is we are saving a lot of time when using functions. So this is without functions, just to know without functions how it works. So we just saw this problem. I hope this is clear. Did you understand this? Sajid, there? Sajidullah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Understood this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we saw NCR program use without functions, right? So next program we will see with functions, using this as a factorial. We will have one factorial function like we saw in problem 234, right? We will use function, and the same problem NCR we will write again, right? So we will update this program by using functions. So that is problem 6 in lab sheet 4, right? Updating problem 1 to find NCR by using functions. So here we have to define one function also. So that is the same function which we just declared. So note that any of the 4 categories we can select. So because here we want the answer back, okay? Fact 1, fact 2, fact 3 we have to store. I will tell you why we selected category 4. Okay, we have to store back that result. All the 3 will return different result. In this type of problem, we want all the 3 result and we want to store it in some variable. So we have to return 1. And we are passing different inputs. So it becomes easier if we are passing parameter. Otherwise, every time it will ask here input, what is n, what is r, what is n, what is r. That we don't want, right? Anyway, we have taken input once. We can pass the same values again and again. Whether we pass n or r or n minus r, we can simply pass it as an argument. So for this problem, category 4 is more feasible, right? So that is why we selected category 4, that is with parameter and with return type. So like this, depending on the application, we can select any one of the 4 categories. Okay, so let us see what is main. I may have displayed this first here, but that does not mean this fact will execute. It does not know what is the value of n or what to return. So it may have defined here. The compiler will scan this and just see, okay, some function is declared. Control always starts from main. So we have declared few variables, right? Like just the previous one. We have n and r is input. I we require for the variable, okay? And fact 1, fact 2, fact 3 also for storing the factorials. NCR is the output. Let us see one by one. Okay, so we know that the function formula is NCR is equal to n factorial by n minus r factorial into r factorial. So here, first we have to again check the basic of NCR will not change. So here also we will check, okay, take input for n and r and then check if n is equal less than r. So that is the first condition. In that case, we cannot compute NCR. Else, if it is equal, we know that if n is equal to r, NCR is 1. So simply print, no need to calculate anything. So value of NCR is 1. Else, if we give different values, n is greater than r, then we will calculate. Now note what happens. We have to just call the function. So we need to find out, in this case, we have to find out n factorial, n minus r factorial and r factorial. So previous problem, we wrote the same code 3 times. So instead here, we will simply call. You can see that all those lines got reduced, right? Fact of n. So this will calculate factorial of 5 and the answer 120 gets stored to fact 1. If you observe previous program, 3 lines were written and those 3 lines got reduced to 1. When we have a 100 function call, it becomes a lot. So 300 lines reduced to 100 lines, you may imagine. So that program length also depends, and it will help in the memory. Okay, so here we have reduced the code. Then next, fact 2 is fact of r. So say 3, here we passed r. So fact of 3 is nothing but 3 into 2 into 1. So fact 2 value will be 6. Next, we want to find factorial of n minus r. So we will simply pass fact of n minus r. So here, before it goes to the function, it will calculate this. If there is some expression, we can pass a single variable or we can pass expressions also. Okay, so here we have passed an expression n minus r. It will calculate this first. So n is 5, r is 3. So n minus r, 5 minus 3 is 2. So it will send fact of 2. Okay, so that is sent to the function. Every time the control will go to this function, calculate, execute that fact, come back and tell the answer, store it to fact 1. Then fact with r is passed. So fact of 3 will be calculated. It goes to the function, calculates 3 factorial. So that is 6. It is returned and that is stored to fact 2. So we are calling the function 3 times. Now fact of 2, 5 minus 3 is 2, is sent. So from here, control goes to the function fact, calculate 2 into 1 is 2. So that is returned. That gets stored to fact 3. Now you can observe some 9 or 10 lines of code got reduced to only 3 lines, right? So that is the advantage of using functions. So here we got the value of n factorial, r factorial and n minus r factorial in these 3 variables respectively. Now we will substitute in the formula. So fact NCR is equal to fact 1 divided by fact 2 into fact 3. So it substitutes and divide 120 by 12, we'll get 10, right? So that is the answer stored in NCR. And then print the value of NCR. That's it. Close else bracket and then close the bracket for main. Okay, execute this program also. Is this clear? Dhiren?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Understood this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so note that anywhere this is a new concept to you all. We saw so many programs examples as well, but if you get any doubts anywhere, you feel free and ask your doubts so that it will be clear. So if you understand these concepts, then further topics becomes very easy. Okay, right? So here we, in this problem, we saw that we are passing some parameters. So if you see this example, we can pass the parameters, right, n and r, or we can pass expression itself as parameter. Here we have n minus r. So we have solved expressions like, so like that we may pass fact of a plus b into c plus d by e minus f into g. We can pass any expression. So in that case, that expression will get evaluated first. Okay, so like this we can pass parameters as whole numbers or any data type, right? Or we can pass expressions. The next type is passing an array, right? So here we can pass an array also. Here we just passed a single variable n or r. Similarly, we can pass an array, right? That is the next problem, passing arrays as parameters to the function. How do we do this? So here we will simply give the name. For example, if we declare array A, okay, int A of 10, 10 is the size of the array. So we have declared int A as the name. A is the name. We can simply give the name of the array as parameter. So let us see one example. How to pass arrays as parameter to the function. That is problem 7 in lab sheet 4. Okay, here the problem statement is as follows. So write a C program to read values to an array and pass the array to the function with the signature. Signature is nothing but the prototype, okay, or the function declaration statement. We can call it as signature also, right? So what all is there in the prototype? What is the syntax of a function prototype? Anyone? What do we write in a function prototype? Data type, function name, arguments, right? I got the answer in the box, chat box. Correct. So we need to give the data type, that is a return type of the function, name of the function, and the arguments or the parameters, right? So here the signature also is given. It may or may not be given in all programs. Here it is given. So the signature or the function prototype is like this: void. That means we know this gives majority of information, signature, right? So void means this function will not return any answer. So this is without return type, but with parameter, right? So this is a different category. We are not having any return answer, but we are passing the parameters. So name of the function is prime. Okay, so this is basically for prime numbers. Okay, that the compiler understands. So now we know that what are the parameters. Now if you observe int a of bracket, so what is this a? So if we write a in square and square bracket, it is an array, right? So here we are passing array as one of the parameters, and we also pass another parameter n. Okay, so we are passing one array, and n is the size of this array. So if we write 5, there are 5 elements in this array a, all are integers. Okay, that is the meaning of this line. Now what is the problem statement? So here the signature gives only this information, right? Now we have problem says that we are passing an array and also the number of elements in the array. What should we do? We have to check whether each element of the array is prime or not, right? So now, what is a prime number? So a prime number is one which is divisible by itself and one, right? So any number which is divisible by itself and one only is prime. So this problem is about prime numbers. We have to check if each element of an array is prime or not. And next, what should we do? So here we have checked for prime. If the array element is not prime, that means it is divisible by some other number, like 4. 4 is divisible by itself and 1, as well as it is divisible by 2. So 4 is not prime. So in that case, that value should be changed to 0. So we don't want any non-prime numbers. We want to print only prime numbers. All non-prime numbers should be changed to 0. That is what the problem statement says. So if the array element is not prime, then set that value to 0. For example, if a of 1 is equal to 4, that means second element in the array is not prime. So that should become 0. Only that particular element. Note that it is not the entire array. Okay, one by one we will check each array element. If a of 0 is prime, then what to do? So if it is prime, then we have to display the array elements. And it says in the main program, that means we have to get back that, right? So here we will see how to use this. So we have to display the array elements which are prime. So here we know that all non-prime numbers are changed to 0. So if we have to display prime, we have to see which of the array element is not equal to 0. We will print only those numbers, right? So let us see how to execute this. So the problem statement is about prime numbers. So this is using the concept of passing array as parameters to a function. So this problem 7 is to find if the array elements are prime numbers or not. So we will check each and every array element and check one by one. Say a of 0, is it prime? Yes, let it be. So if a of 0 is 3, 3 is prime. Okay, let it be. Then check a of 1. A of 1 equal to 4. So 4 is not prime. It is divisible by another number, 2, right? So 4 is not prime. Now change that to 0. So array became 3. Array was 3, 4, 5, if for example. Now it became 3, 0, 5 because 5 is also prime. So what will we print? 3 and 5. Is the problem statement clear? Did you understand the question at least? No? Okay. Yeah. Yes. Fine. Let us see how to execute this, how to implement this. So first, we have the header file, and note this is written immediately, not inside main. So if it is written here, this int count equal to 0, count is a global variable. So in this problem, how to use a global variable? It is written before main, it is declared, and It is not always compulsory to initialize, but in this, because we require, we are initializing count to 0. We want to count how many are prime or not prime, right? So in that case, we are initializing to 0, count how many are prime. So, or how many are not prime, we can count that way. So we are initializing it to 0. Now the control we know starts from main. So here we will declare, write the function. Now here I have written right hand side. Is this clearly visible? Can you all see this part of the code? Yes or no? Can
Yes,
you
ma'am.
see the function? Yes. Yeah, it is clear. Okay, because font is a little smaller. Okay, so here control comes to main part. Now here we are declaring the required variables. I for the loop. Okay, so we want to take elements input also, right? N is the number of elements of the array, and we are declaring an array A with the maximum of 50 elements. Okay, so here we have to take input first. So we need to know first what is N, right? How many elements are there? So for example, we give only 3. Okay, so 3 elements. Now for tracing it becomes easier, so I have taken 3. Now we enter the array elements. So like we just saw, if we enter 3, 4, 5, okay, 3 elements, that is stored to A of 0, A of 1 and A of 2. Okay, now we will call the function. This is the function call, very important part. Here we are calling because we know as per the signature, it is void is a return type. So we are not returning any answer. We'll simply write the name of the function followed by, note that in the signature and in the function call, it is different. This is very important to note. Here we are writing only the name. There we wrote with the square bracket. Okay, so we are writing only the name of the function and name of the array. I'm sorry, only the name of the array is enough. So we are writing A, comma N. So because we have already declared here as an array, only the name will suffice. So here if we write A, it is an array name, and N is the number of elements. We are passing this to the function called prime. So main is the calling function, prime is the called function. So these are the actual parameters. As soon as compiler sees the function call, it goes to the function. So here we have given the first line, which is the signature or function prototype or function declaration. All mean the same. So here we have given void. So this prime function does not return anything. So void. And what are the parameters? Int A. So brackets indicate that, it indicates to the compiler that this first variable is a array. Now it will compare and check if it is matching or not. So only then it will move further. So first it will check this prototype with the function call. So here, do we have two variables? Yes, number of parameters. So actual parameters are A and N. So two parameters, and formal parameters also we have two. Okay. What is the order? First one is an array, right? This actual parameter is an array. So first parameter here also is an array. Second parameter is a single number. So here also second parameter is a number. Okay. Order is the same. What about the data type? So first we have integer, right? Integer array. So here also it is int. Then N is also integer. Here also it is int. So first thing is it has matched the three things: order, number of parameters, and the data type of actual parameters match with the data type. All the three: order, data type, and number of formal parameters. So no problem. It is matching. Now it will continue. Okay. Otherwise it does not continue. It will simply give an error message and stop the program. So because it is clear, okay, so all the three are matching for actual parameter and formal parameter. We will implement this function now. We have to find if each of the array element is prime or not. So we have to start from 0. Array index starts from 0. So we have to start from A of 0. So here in the prime function, we are defining. So, okay, so we start I and J, we are taking two variables. So I starts from 0. So A of 0. And now if we think, okay, if we are not dividing by 0, what should this first value of J be? If we give divide by 0, then there is an error. There is divide by 0 is not possible. And 1, every number is divisible by 1. So there is no meaning to divide by 1 and check. Okay, then it will give all numbers are not prime. right? So we need not check by dividing 0 because that is error, and dividing 1 because all the numbers are divisible by 1. So in that case, J will start from 2. Is this clear? I starts from 0 because array index starts from 0, and we have to start dividing from 2 onwards. So that is the logic for prime number. So we will start dividing each number by 2 to find if it is prime. So J will start from 2. Okay, so A of 0, as per the input we saw, 3, 4, 5 we have given, right? So 3 is A of 0. Is it divisible by 2? 3% 2 will get remainder as 1, right? So it is not equal to 0. So condition is false, right? A of I is 3, 3% 2 not equal to 0. Condition is false. It does not enter the condition. It comes out. Now we have to increment. So what? J has to be incremented. But till where? Only till this value. We will not check divide 3 by 4, 5, right? We will check only till the value. So here A of 0 is 3, and J when it becomes 3, so 3 less than 3 condition is false. This J loop will complete. Now I will be incremented. Okay, so 3 is prime number. So it is not changed to 0. Now what if it is a prime number? I becomes 1. So A of 1 we have given as 4, second value. So that is A of 1 is given as 4. So what should happen? It is a prime number, a non-prime number, right? So again, divide. J starts from 2. Okay, 2 less than 4. Yes, condition true. Now check. A of 1 is nothing but 4. 4% 2. When we divide 4 by 2, remainder is 0. That means it says that 4 is divisible by 2. So that means it is not prime. So if it is not prime, this 4 should be eliminated. It should become 0. So we will make A of I as 0. Okay. So the A of 1 value becomes 0, and we are incrementing count. We want to count how many non-prime numbers are there. So increment count. Note that this is a global variable. Okay. So if we are incrementing here, it will reflect in main. So that is the way global variable works. So count became 1. So out of the 2 numbers we checked, one of them is non-prime. Okay. So here count became 1. Now when we increment J further, so J becomes 3. So A of I is 4. Okay. So again, here we will get, fine, it is not divisible. Now next we will check for A of 2. I becomes incremented to 2. We checked for A of 1. Okay, we gave 3, 4, 5, right? So A of 2 is 5. Now check. So is it divisible? No. So it is 5 is not divisible by 2, 3 or 4. Okay. So we will not get remainder as 0. So it does not enter this condition itself, right? A of 2 is 5. Percentage 2 is 1. When we divide 5 by 2, we get remainder 1. When we divide 5 by 3, we get remainder as 2. That is also not equal to 0. Condition false. Then when we divide by 4, 5% 4, the remainder is again 1, which is not equal to 0. Condition is false. It does not enter this loop at all, right? So 5 remains 5. It does not get changed to 0. Okay, neither does count increment. So in this case, again, when J becomes 5, so 5 less than 5 condition is false. So it will stop. So at the end of this, so I again gets incremented. So I becomes 3, right? But n value is also 3. There are only 3 numbers in our example. 3 less than 3 condition is false. So this will stop. So how many non-prime? We counted only one non-prime number. Now that count will get reflected here as well. So let us check. Now we came back. Note that we did not print anything also, right? So here, this way also it can work. We change something. It is reflected in global variable. So if we have void, does not mean that result we will always print. In this example, you can see we have one variable which gets executed, and its result will be reflected in main also, because count is a global variable. Now, if it is used in the function, it can be used here also. How do we use it? Simply check. Okay, if count is equal to n. So if we had checked, if we had given, for example, 4, 4, 4, all the 3 variables are non-prime, and count would have incremented 3 times, right? 3 equal to 3. So they all are not prime. So there is no prime number, right? 4, 4, 4 means none of them are prime numbers. So there are no prime numbers. So otherwise, so here if count is not equal to n, maybe less, all right? So in this case, there are some prime numbers, right? What happened to the array here? It was 3, 4, 5. 4 was non-prime, it got changed to 0. Others are prime, it remains same. So the array is now 3, 0, and 5. As per our problem statement, we have to print only prime numbers. We should not print that second number, which is 0. It was a non-prime number. So we have to check if each array element is equal to 0, then we will not print. Only if it is not equal to 0, we will print. So 3, 0, 5 are there. We have to print 3 and 5 only, which are not equal to 0. So check if a of I is not equal to 0. We are starting I from 0. So a of 0 is 3. 3 not equal to 0. So print 3. Next, I should get incremented, right? So there are n numbers. So we give a for loop for 0 up to n, 0, 1, and 2. So a of 1 got changed to 0. 3, 4, 5 became 3, 0, 5, right? So 0 not equal to 0, condition false. So we will not print. Next, I becomes 2. A of 2 is 5. 5 is not equal to 0. Condition true. We will print 5. So we printed 3 and 5. Right? So next, when I becomes 3, 3 less than 3, condition is false. So this for loop will complete. And then we have to close one bracket for loop, another bracket for else, another bracket for main. Okay? Is this clear? So let me execute this one program. Just a minute. Okay, I will give problem 7. Okay, cd dot dot cd dot dot. Okay. This is problem 7, right? So here we have the same problem. So problem, this is a prime function. Okay, and then we have the main function. Okay, exactly same program. Let's execute this. Now let's clear screen. And gcc p7.c. This will compile the program in MinGW. Okay, once we get back prompt, no error, execute A. So I will give the same example we just discussed. So there are 3 elements in the array. What are the elements? 3, 4, 5. So according to this, 3 and 5 are the only prime numbers. So this will get changed to 0. So after implementing the program, the array becomes 3, 0, 5. If you want, you can print the array elements, all the array elements, and check also, right? All the non-prime numbers should get changed to 0, and we have to print only the prime numbers. So according to this, we have to print only 3 and 5, right? So here we give 3, 4, 5 as input, and next we have to print that. So prime numbers are 3, 5. Is this clear? Did you understand this problem? Harshita? Yes, okay. I get one message. What about others? So Jai Surya message. Harshita is there? Deepak? Yes? Okay. Understood? Good. Yeah. Let us see one more output. Okay. So here I will just say we give 10. So this is what we have. So for example, simply I have given the same thing there as well. So we are simply giving like this. So here we have 10 elements. Out of this, what is the output? Predict the output. Anyone? Predict the output of this program, of this input given here.
3, 5, 7.
Yes? Is it only 3, 5, 7? What about 1 and 2? Are they not prime? Yes, right? So 1 and 2 are also prime. So what gets changed here? So 1, 2, 3 are all prime numbers. We know 4 is non-prime. This will get changed to 0. 5 is prime number. It remains as it is. 6 is non-prime, gets changed to 0. 7 remains as it is. It is prime. 8 is non-prime. 8 is divisible by 4 and 2 also, right? 9 is divisible by 3, 10 is divisible by 2, 5, etc. So 8, 9, 10 will be non-prime, they get changed to 0. So what is remaining in the array? Now what happens to the array elements? It will become 1, 2, 3, then 0, 5, 0, 7, 0, 0, 0. So these are the numbers. Only prime numbers will remain. All other numbers become 0. Now we have to print only the prime numbers, which are non-zero. So here we gave this element. So we will get the output 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. These are the 5 prime numbers among the 10 array values we entered. Is this clear? Harshit, GS? CR? You are there here? Did you understand this? What about Divyashri? Jigyasa? Okay. Yes. Yeah. Fine. I get the message. Okay. So this is all about functions. So in the lab sheet, these are the problems. So next we will learn about structures and unions. I will also share the videos, right? Or let us see if possible, we will schedule a class also. Otherwise, anyway, I will share video also. Okay. So then we will discuss that. So execute all the programs, right? So all of you enter your name and roll number in the chat box. And we have some time. If you have any doubts anywhere, let me know. This problem or any other problem. If you have any doubts, you can let me know. Okay, we have one question. Where is the syllabus till? So it is till functions, structures and unions. So after this, we have 2 more topics, structure and union. So there is only 2 more programs left in your syllabus. Okay, one based on structure, another based on union. That is still lab sheet 4 only. So I have shared lab sheet 4 also. So you execute that. Okay, is that clear? Yeah. Yeah, any other doubt? Yeah, this video is available on YouTube also. You can watch there as well. As I told you, along with the program, there is a execution as well, test cases, each and every program I have explained. But I conducted this so that in between, if you have any doubts also, you can ask at the same time. So like you were asking in during the class, so anywhere, somewhere you got some doubt, you can immediately ask, right? So here, similar programs and all are discussed in the video also, right? So syllabus is till module 4 only. Lab sheet 4 you write, but I will tell you the date later on, the date for submission. I will tell the programs to be written as well, okay? Because you will have that for your end term exam, right? So there we will count it. Pre-end term is till lab sheet 3 for marks counting, that is, but your entire syllabus will be included for end term exam, that is all the 4 modules. I hope I have cleared your doubts. Any other doubt? So execute each and every program. Okay, yeah, clear? Yes. Okay then. So we'll end this class here, and we will continue with the next topic, structures and union, in the next class. Right? Thank you.